Previously, Jia Nixi's lightning invasion shattered the Li clan's defenses, seized Lichuan Pass, and forced Li Xiangping to lead his soldiers deep into Shanyue territory. Li Xuanling and Li Jingdian were captured while Qingqi sect coldly refused to intervene. Now, the two young heirs must escape from the enemy camp. Li Tongya prepares to strike back, and far away in the southern border, Li Qijing is being pushed toward a breakthrough that may cost him far more than his life. Let's continue with Reborn as an Ancient Mirror, Episode 13. Get out! Get out of my sight! Mu Xiaoman no longer had any patience left to hear the man explain himself. He waved him away with obvious irritation. When he saw the man still looking back reluctantly as he left the tent, Mu Xiaoman gave a cold snort and released the pressure of his fourth stage qi refining cultivation. The man immediately fled in terror. A tribal shaman pushed Li Jingdian forward. Mu Xiaoman hurriedly rose to his feet, then sat back down again as though he had forgotten what he meant to do. His heart was pounding with the same nervous uncertainty he had felt at the age of 5 or 7, when he had first been tested to see whether he possessed a shamanic aperture. When Li Jingdian raised her head and looked at him, he hesitated before saying, "You." Li Jingdian showed no fear. She stared calmly at Mu Xiaoman's massive frame, and said through clenched teeth, "If you touch me, I will smash my head against the ground and die inside this tent." After speaking, she felt strangely relieved. She thought to herself, "Once I am dead, Xuanling will no longer need to worry about me. It will be much easier for him to escape alone." Mu Xiaoman hurriedly raised both hands and spoke in a gentle voice. "What is your name?" Li Jingdian immediately became wary. Her elegant brows drew together as she answered softly, "Yi Tian." She obviously could not reveal her true name, so she had chosen one at random. Li Jingdian studied Mu Xiaoman's expressionless face and wondered inwardly, why has this Shanyue commander suddenly become like this? Mu Xiaoman watched her frown. Within his mind, 36 years of absolute loyalty toward Jia Nixi collided with a complicated and almost deranged thought. The mere existence of that thought frightened him so badly that he could barely remain calm. "No, absolutely not. I cannot allow Jia Nixi to see this woman." "Young clan lord!" The Shanyue have withdrawn. Li Xuanyuan had been staring anxiously toward Mount Lijing when the clan soldier below shouted the news. He was overjoyed. Then he looked around at the people beside him and saw that every one of them was waiting expectantly for his decision. The realization struck him at once. Granduncle has gone west to search for Uncle Xiangping. Everyone in the clan can only rely on me now. This is a moment of crisis, Li Xuanyuan. You cannot afford to be careless. He clenched his fists. The situation was worse than he had imagined. Li Chuyang and Chen Donghe had both followed Li Xiangping into Shanyue territory. Apart from a few children who had only begun cultivating during the past several years, the clan had no one left except Aunt Liu Rushuan and Li Xuanfeng, both of whom were at the fourth stage of embryonic breathing. Send people to Lichuan Pass and Lijing Town first. Calm the residents and calculate the casualties and losses. Liu Rushuan was already in her 30s, but because she cultivated the immortal path, she still appeared to be only a little over 20. She looked west with worry in her eyes, then nodded. "Leave Lichuan Pass to me, Tianqiu." Wan Tianqiu hurried forward when he heard his name. Li Xuanwan instructed him. "You guarded Lichuan Pass for many years and know the terrain there. Go with Uncle Tong." Wan Tianqiu nodded and withdrew. Li Xuanyuan released a slow breath, then said in a deep voice, "As for Lijing Town, I will go there myself." On Mount Lijing, Li Xuanyuan stood before a courtyard that had been thrown into complete disorder. Li Xiaowen, the eldest son of Li Yesheng, stood behind him. Li Xiangping had recalled Li Xiaowen several years earlier. Since then, he had remained at Li Xuanyuan's side and helped manage the affairs of the clan. Now that Li Yesheng had followed Li Xiangping westward, Li Xiwen naturally took over his father's responsibilities. Li Xuanyuan shook his head and asked with a frown, "Have Jingshan and Xuanling still not been found?" "Young clan lord, we have already sent men to search every part of the surrounding mountains and forests. There has been no sign of either of them." Li Xuanyuan's entire body stiffened. He looked across the ruined courtyard, lifted a wooden chair from the ground and sat down heavily. "Xuanyuan, the Shanyue took every young boy and girl from Lijing Town. They did not kill many people. Several hundred villagers were injured while resisting the looting, but Lichuan Pass suffered far more deaths. Even the eldest son of the Chen family died at the hands of the Shanyue." Li Xuanwan nodded dispiritedly and forced out a few words. "It is all right. The losses are not severe. All children in Lijing village who had reached the proper age for cultivation had already been tested for spiritual apertures. The few children discovered to possess them over the past several years were all disciples from families of different surnames, and they had remained beside Li Xuanyuan. None had been lost. As long as Chen Donghe is alive, it does not matter who else dies in the Chen family." He continued, "Go tell them this. Any man who wishes to recover the children of his family, and anyone who wants revenge against the Shanyue, may register at the foot of the mountain. We will form another military force from among them. Young clan lord, this. Li Xuanyuan shook his head and answered in his usual mild voice. The clan lord took our soldiers with him. We must establish another armed force to maintain order among the villages. This is only a pretext for recruitment. The Shanyue are too powerful at present. I will not do anything foolish. Li Xiaoman nodded and withdrew to carry out the order. Only then did Li Xuanyuan hurry into the rear courtyard. He pushed open the door of the small ancestral chamber and stopped the moment he saw the collapsed offering table and the empty stone platform. Damn it! For an instant, loss and fury surged into his chest together. A few breaths later, they faded into a helpless sigh. He looked at the wooden chair where Li Mutian had often sat in his final years. It had been pushed into a corner. Li Xuanyuan walked over, sat down heavily, and stared blankly at the empty stone platform. The door creaked open again. Li Tongya had returned to Mount Lijing. Travel-worn and exhausted, he entered the room and looked silently at the objects scattered across the floor. Li Xuanyuan hurried to his feet and asked respectfully, "Granduncle, did you find any news of the clan lord?" Li Tongya shook his head. He formed the clean garment art with one hand, dispersing the dust from his clothes, then explained, "I searched westward through Shanyue territory for 4 hours. I found no trace of him before I was forced to withdraw. However, I did see that the Shanyue had established a camp in the west. 4 qi refining cultivators are guarding it." Disappointment filled Li Xuanyuan's face. Li Tongya's gaze passed over the empty stone platform. Instead of being alarmed, he smiled with relief. "There is no need to panic. If I cannot find Xiangping, then the Shanyue qi refining cultivators will not be able to find him either. We need not worry about his safety for the time being. Besides, Linger is intelligent. He must have taken the profound mirror away and hidden it before the enemy arrived." Li Tongya gently raised the fallen offering table and continued. Jia Nixi launched a surprise attack on Mount Lijing. Had he captured Xuanling and Jingdian, he would certainly have sent someone to threaten us and extort a heavy ransom. Since there has been no movement at all, Xuanling most likely withdrew before Jia Nixi reached the mountain and left him with nothing. Li Xuanyuan nodded thoughtfully. So that is what happened. Xuanling must have sensed that something was wrong, taken the profound mirror down the mountain, and then gone west. Li Tongya arranged the scattered offerings and replied, "I will search for another chance to support them. You must remain here, calm the people, and count the spirit fields that were plundered." Chen Donghe and Li Chuyang both followed the army west, so those fields must be properly reassigned. "Yes, Granduncle, please be careful." Li Xuanyuan sounded worried, but Li Tongya merely smiled and waved a hand. "These Shanyue are only a pack of wild men relying on superior numbers. They have swallowed nothing but miscellaneous and feral qi. I have already mastered profound water sword qi. Unless 3 to 5 of them attack together, they cannot oppose me. There is no need to worry. If your youngest granduncle Li Qijing were here, even 5 of them tied together would not withstand a single stroke of his sword." With those words, Li Tongya lightly stepped into the air and flew west. Li Xuanyuan let out a long breath and sat back down. The relief of recovering something he had thought lost brought the faintest curve to his lips. Then he noticed 8 crooked characters carved into one leg of the chair. "May the household flourish. May your descendants prosper." The old man who had secluded himself on the mountain for half his life because of a mere rumor concerning Foundation establishment suddenly appeared in Li Xuanyuan's mind. He wiped the corner of his eye, rose with renewed determination, and walked out. The moment he left the room, he encountered Li Xuanfeng carrying his black longbow. Seeing the urgency on the younger boy's face, Li Xuanyuan called out, "Fenger!" Li Xuanfeng looked up. After hearing Li Xuanyuan repeat Li Tongya's words, he finally released a breath, yet concern remained on his face. "Father led soldiers alone into Shanyue territory. I am still worried about him. Do not do anything reckless." Li Xianwen immediately became alert. Li Tongya had already gone to rescue Li Xuanling and Li Jingdian. He had no intention of allowing Li Xuanfeng to become involved as well. He hurriedly reassured him. "The clan lord understands the limits of what he can do. Do not even think about entering Shanyue territory to search for him. You would only make everyone else hesitate and restrain themselves. I know." Li Xuanfeng waved a hand, his voice filled with resentment. "We are still too weak. If I had reached qi refining, then no matter what kind of Shanyue warrior he was, no matter whether he was Jia Nixi himself, it would all be settled with a single arrow." "Enough!" Li Xuanfeng ground his teeth and waved impatiently. "I am going into seclusion to break through to the 5th stage of embryonic breathing and form the Jade Capital Chakra." Li Xuanyuan froze when he heard this. He could not help thinking, breakthrough, is that something one can simply decide to enter seclusion and accomplish? Does he not need to wait for the right opportunity? Li Xuanling himself had been trapped at the 4th stage, the Azure Essence Chakra, for more than 2 years without finding an opportunity to advance. He inhaled quietly, took a jade bottle from the pouch at his waist, and said gently, "This is the Serpent Essence Pill Senior Xiao left behind after refining pills for our clan." There were 3 in total. 2 were used by the elders when they broke through to the Jade Capital Chakra. The final pill was reserved for my own breakthrough, but you should take it first. He paused and sighed. It is a pity that our clan has no alchemical inheritance. The 3 serpent dragon fruits we possess have remained unusable all these years. Li Xiangping thanked him and accepted the jade bottle. He smiled. Brother Xuanyuan, there is no need to worry. Our clan only entered the path of cultivation a little over 30 years ago. Naturally, we cannot compare with ancient families that possess deep foundations. When our clan has a few more chi-refining cultivators, we can find a wandering cultivator with an alchemical inheritance, kill him and take it. Li Xuanyuan shook his head and laughed. You are far too bloodthirsty for your age. Other people's inheritances are not things you can obtain simply by killing them at random. We still need to accumulate spirit stones and purchase them properly. Li Xuanping curled his lips. As long as we are far stronger than the other party, whether it is called buying or taking, do we not get to decide? He gave a low laugh, then prepared to enter seclusion in the cave, dwelling on Mount Mixi. Li Xuanling had spent more than 10 days performing hard labor in the Shanyue camp. The other slaves complained bitterly from exhaustion, but with his 2nd stage embryonic breathing cultivation, the work was easy for him. His only difficulty was pretending to be as tired and miserable as everyone else. The Shanyue had penned the slaves together like sheep. They ate and slept in the same enclosed ground, where filth piled into heaps and the stench was almost unbearable. More than a dozen guards watched them at all times. On the very first night, Li Xuanling had nearly kicked apart the shackles around his ankles and escaped. But he was still waiting for news of Li Jingdian, and so he endured for more than 10 days. The Shanyue seemed to be constructing a large permanent camp here, one intended to watch and contain the Li clan. Li Xuanling carefully studied the layout. The best opportunity to escape would come when the slaves were sent outside to carry timber. They would be far from the experts stationed in the center of the camp. He would only need to kill several guards, and even the stronger cultivators would struggle to catch him in time. It would be easy for me to leave by myself. Getting eldest sister out will be far more difficult. Li Jingdian had been entering and leaving the command tents frequently during these past days. Every time Li Xuanling saw her, his heart tightened with fear. He constantly moved through the surrounding area, searching for an opportunity to take her with him. As he carried timber through the camp, he quietly observed the defenses on every side. Then he heard 2 Shanyue tribal shamans talking nearby. We leave for Dajue Court tomorrow, do we not? Of course. I heard the great king intends to build a stone city at Dajue Court. He wants to make offerings to the ancestral shamans and formally proclaim his achievement in unifying the northern foothills. After several hundred years of chaos, we can finally live in peace. Li Xuanling's heart jolted. No matter what happens, I must act tonight. Once they take us to the great Shanyue city tomorrow, there will truly be no road to heaven and no gate into the earth. He gently set down the timber in his hands and secretly glanced into the profound mirror hidden against his chest. He immediately located Li Jingdian and hurried away to find a path toward her. Inside the mirror, Lu Jiangxian wore a strange expression. As Li Xuanling continued moving west, an aura slowly emerged in the far distance, one that felt almost as though it shared the mirror's own bloodline. How is that possible? Lu Jiangxian's thoughts became a storm of confusion. The distant presence burned in his perception like a torch in the darkness. Its power left him deeply shaken. An edict essence? Deep within the distant mountain range was an aura he knew all too well. The profound sense of kinship allowed him to understand at once. It was an edict essence that had once fallen from the profound mirror, not the gray-green essence bestowed upon Li Xiangping, but a brilliant yellow one. The mirror's edict essences came in gray, white, azure, and yellow. They corresponded to the realms of Qi Refining, Foundation Establishment, Purple Mansion, and Golden Core. A yellow essence could only be condensed after the profound mirror received a sacrifice and accumulated incense faith at the Golden Core level. As Li Xuanling slowly moved closer, Lu Jingshan became capable of establishing a faint connection with that yellow essence. Yet he still had too many doubts, so he remained silent. A name slowly appeared within his thoughts. The successor of Li Jiangkun's immortal estate. He immediately rejected the possibility. More questions rose in his mind. Li Jiangkun only possessed Purple Mansion cultivation. Even the people who surrounded and killed him were merely several Purple Mansion cultivators from the 3 sects and 7 gates. How could that have produced a yellow edict essence? Bestowing an edict is not as simple as offering the corpse of a Golden Core cultivator. It requires the living sacrifice of a demon, together with an enormous amount of incense faith. The more Lu Jiangxian considered the matter, the less he understood. He could only faintly sense the scent of danger. No matter what, we cannot approach Dajue Court carelessly. Li Jiangqun's fate is warning enough. The forces hunting the profound mirror cannot possibly be limited to the 3 sects and 7 gates. There must be something far greater behind them. Li Xuanling lingered outside the command tents for a long time before finally seeing Li Jingdian. He had exchanged duties with the slave who delivered water. Carrying a heavy jar with deliberately clumsy steps, he approached the great water vat at the exact moment Li Jingdian and her attendants passed by. Li Jingdian wore animal hide and pieces of jade. She glanced lightly at Li Xuanling struggling with the water jar and said, "Wait." The Shanyue attendants beside her immediately smiled ingratiatingly. Li Jingdian spoke softly, "Choose him." 2 Shanyue men stepped forward and dragged Li Xuanling away. He kept his head lowered as he walked and heard the men laughing. "You are a fortunate child. The commander promised the young lady 10 slaves, and you are the first she has chosen." Li Xuanling immediately understood that Li Jingdian had found a way to contact him. He obediently allowed them to lead him away. After being washed twice in a rough and hurried manner, he was pushed into Li Jingdian's tent. The Shanyue cared little for ceremony. Li Xuanling was still dripping wet as he stepped onto the rug. He looked around, saw that Li Jingdian was alone, and finally released a quiet breath. Li Jingdian set down the object in her hand, hurried forward, and whispered beside his ear,
"I heard news of the clan lord."
During the past 10 days, Li Xiangping had evaded one pursuing force after another, and continued west into the Shanyue heartland. He appeared and vanished among the Shanyue settlements, gathering desperate refugees and displaced tribesmen from Jia Nixi's territory under his command. Wherever he passed, unrest began to spread. Jia Nixi was currently leading troops to raid several northern families under Tangjin Gate. After receiving the news, he ordered Mu Xiaoman to take his army back and suppress Li Xiangping. That was why the camp would depart tomorrow. Li Xuanling stared at her in disbelief. What is the clan lord trying to do? He quickly shook himself from his daze and lowered his voice. It does not matter. At dusk, when the dark moon and the last light overlap, I will leave the camp with the woodcutting party and find a chance to escape. Once I reach the eastern forest, I will signal you. Pretend that you need to leave the tent to relieve yourself. I will kill the Shanyue attendants around you and take you away. Li Jingdian hesitated. Will that work? Be careful of the Shanyue patrols. Do not worry. Li Xuanling nodded firmly. I have spent more than 10 days observing the tents of their embryonic breathing officers. We will not alarm them. Li Jingdian thought for several breaths before nodding. Then she asked quietly, what if we draw the attention of a large number of soldiers? Li Xuanling hesitated. Then I will put you down and have you continue east. I will draw them in another direction. Li Jingdian shook her head and spoke gently. Even if I am captured again, Mu Xiaoman will not harm me. You possess a spiritual aperture. You are far more important, and nothing can be allowed to happen to you. Li Xuanling lowered his head without answering. Li Jingdian opened her mouth, then asked after a brief hesitation. What if Mu Xiaoman personally pursues us? If a qi refining commander comes after us? Li Xuanling touched the profound mirror hidden against his chest. He was not certain that a single strike of Taiyin profound light could kill Mu Xiaoman immediately. His voice became solemn. The Shanyue are the enemies of our clan. They wear long hair and tattoos, and they are savage and without restraint. Nothing good will happen if you and I remain in their hands. You may even be violated, then used as a hostage to threaten the family. He stared deeply at Li Jingdian and clenched his teeth. If matters truly reach that point, I will kill you first and then take my own life. Li Jingdian froze. Sadness entered her expression. She reached out, stroked Li Xuanling's head, and said gently, Then I will have to trouble you to do it. The words had barely left her mouth when chaos erupted outside the tent. Voices shouted in every direction. From the sky came Mu Xiaoman's deep and furious roar. You again? Who exactly are you? You have provoked us again and again. Do you truly think we are nothing but soft mud beneath your hands? Li Xuanling and Li Jingdian exchanged a glance. They lifted one corner of the tent flap and saw a middle-aged swordsman standing in the air. Pale blue, translucent river, true essence flowed continuously in his body. He looked down calmly at the Shanyue soldiers gathering below. It was Li Tongya. Holding his gray-white sword, Li Tongya swept his calm gaze across the warriors beneath him. When he spoke, spiritual power carried his voice through the entire camp. The Li clan and the Shanyue have always kept to our own sides, like river water that never interferes with well water. You launched an unprovoked surprise attack on Mount Lijing, stole our spirit rice, and abducted our people. Yet you still dare ask who I am. Below, Li Xuanling released a breath of relief and whispered joyfully, It is Father. Mu Xiaoman rose into the air in a fury. 2 Shanyue human shamans with key refining cultivation followed behind him. He said coldly, "Your demon sect promised payment for allowing the 4 Shanyue territories to pass through your lands. Now you wish to regret that agreement? The spirit rice, spirit fruits, and people are already in our hands. They now belong to the Shanyue." Mu Xiaoman watched the sword radiance pulsing from Li Tongya's weapon with obvious caution. He ground his teeth. "If you withdraw now, we will overlook this offense." Li Tongya gave a cold laugh. He raised his gray-white sword and swept out several arcs of sword chi. Mu Xiaoman and the other 2 reacted as though facing a mortal enemy. More than 10 days earlier, Li Tongya had fought them while crossing the region in search of Li Xiangping. All 3 knew how difficult he was to oppose and hurriedly formed hand seals and cast their arts. Mu Xiaoman and his companions had all entered chi refining. Through secret techniques passed down among the Shanyue, they had swallowed miscellaneous ki without using any orthodox ki-gathering method and had only forced their cultivation into shape. Their spiritual power was inferior to Li Tongya's, and their ability to control ki and ride the wind was even worse. They immediately fell into a disadvantage once more. Li Tongya had trained in the profound water sword art for nearly 30 years. His sword radiance was swift and razor-sharp. Within moments, all 3 opponents were forced into constant retreat, while the military camp below erupted like a shattered beehive. "A perfect opportunity!" Li Xuanling kicked apart the shackles around his ankles. He seized Li Jingdian, snapped the neck of the Shanyue guard at the tent entrance with one hand, and crossed the wooden barrier in several rapid strides. 2 more Shanyue soldiers stood beyond it, staring open-mouthed at the battle in the sky. Li Xuanling struck both of them on the crown of the head with golden light arts. He did not stop to see whether they lived or died. He cast the swift travel art upon his legs, lifted Li Jingdian into his arms, and plunged into the forest. Every motion flowed into the next. He moved with the speed of a leopard. While everyone else stared upward, he carried Li Jingdian beyond the camp in little more than 10 breaths. By the time those in the neighboring tents reacted, he had already vanished. There were no true experts nearby. The embryonic breathing cultivators had already gone to restore order, while the spiritual perception of the chi-refining cultivators extended only a few dozen paces. The men fighting in the sky knew nothing of the escape below. "Damn you!" Mu Xiaoman roared from the sky, grinding his teeth with fury. "If the Great King were here, how could you possibly be allowed to act so arrogantly?" Jia Nixi was at the 7th stage of chi refining. Years earlier, he had encountered a great opportunity. Not only had he obtained an orthodox cultivation method, he had also absorbed a true strand of heavenly and earthly spiritual chi. His saber arts had reached an extraordinary level. Among the many powers of the northern foothills, he alone could suppress more than 7 chi refining human shamans. Li Tongya could not be bothered to answer. He silently compared Jia Nixi's strength with Li Qiqing's while flicking the sword in his hand. "I am only at the 2nd stage of chi refining. Of these 3, one is at the 4th stage and the other 2 are at the 2nd. I am suppressing all of them only because of my profound water sword chi. If this battle continues for too long, they may truly exhaust me to death here." A sweep of sword chi forced the 3 attackers back. Li Tongya glanced down with some concern and saw the camp gradually regaining order. "I do not know whether the 2 children have escaped. I will exchange another dozen moves with them, then withdraw when I find an opening." After enduring more than 10 exchanges, Li Tongya once again forced all 3 away with a swing of his sword. Without another word, he stepped into the air and flew east. Mu Xiaoman roared behind him. "What courage? You truly think you can come whenever you please and leave whenever you wish?" Mu Xiaoman ground his teeth and rubbed his palms together. A stream of black chi erupted from his hands. The vital essence throughout his body immediately weakened by several degrees. This was the most powerful curse art of the Shanyue shamans. The thick black chi spun several times, gathering into an enormous skull that shot directly toward Li Tongya. Below, Lu Jiangxian had been watching the spectacle when he suddenly froze. That black chi felt strangely familiar. It carried a faint trace of the profound mirror's aura, almost as though it were curling a finger at him and inviting him to swallow it. Lu Jiangxian considered the matter for several breaths. Mu Xiaoman's vital essence had already fallen somewhat. Between consuming a meaningless mouthful of food and avoiding the risk of exposing himself, Lu Jiangxian chose the latter. He continued pretending to be dead inside the mirror. Only his divine sense moved, carefully observing Li Tongya's condition. Li Tongya did not recognize the Shanyue technique, but he knew it could not be anything good. He dodged through the air for a time, yet the black key grew faster and faster until it slammed into his back. Mu Xiaoman laughed loudly. The curse arts of the shamans are profoundly mysterious. Even if you flee to the ends of the earth, you cannot escape them. Cold spread through Li Tongya's limbs. The spiritual power in his body became slightly sluggish, and his flying speed fell a little. He carefully examined himself, but found nothing else wrong. That is all? Li Tongya was genuinely stunned. His speed had slowed slightly, yet the three people pursuing him were still falling farther and farther behind. A strange expression appeared on his face. Mu Xiaoman was both shocked and terrified. He felt the odd gazes of the two subordinates behind him, and suddenly became acutely aware of their judgment. What in the hell is happening? Only Lu Jiangshan laughed silently through Li Xuanling's position in the forest below. Most of the black qi had already been seized by his divine sense and stripped of its original control. It now clung motionlessly to Li Tongya's robes while Lu Jiangshan carefully studied its internal structure. It resembles the mirror's edict essence, but it is far inferior. It appears to be a crude, lower-level version of the living sacrifice method. Within the profound mirror something created by people who had no mirror and could do nothing better. The path of shamanism must be deeply connected to the profound mirror. Lu Jiangshan remembered the yellow golden core edict essence in the direction of Dajue Court. He silently committed every insight gained from the black qi to memory, then casually dispersed it. When I have time, I can study these things. It will at least give me something to do, besides sleeping inside the mirror every day. Mu Xiaoman and the others pursued for another dozen breaths, cursing in humiliation. Before long, they finally stopped and withdrew while shouting abuse. Li Tongya even had enough leisure to look back at them. The corner of his mouth rose slightly. He circulated his spiritual power once, and the faint discomfort left by the curse vanished completely. After pondering the matter in confusion, he could only conclude that the Shanyue commander had failed to master his own art and had made a fool of himself. Li Tongya regulated his breathing and restored his spiritual power. Then he turned back and flew close to the ground. The mouthful of riverborn clear qi within his ki-high acupoint churned continuously, allowing him to glide without his feet touching the earth. I should turn back and search for the two children first. If I cannot find them, I will have no choice but to infiltrate the camp again. He searched carefully for half an hour. At last, his expression relaxed when his spiritual perception found two filthy and bedraggled figures in the forest. Li Xuanling was carrying Li Jingdian. A pale white glow surrounded his legs as he used a movement art. He moved through the thick undergrowth as easily as if walking across level ground, though the speed had covered both of them in mud. The child had deliberately avoided traveling east toward Mount Lijing. He feared encountering Mu Xiaoman and the others after their failed pursuit of Li Tongya, so he had chosen a long and indirect route. That was why Li Tongya had needed so long to find them. He descended gently before Li Xuanling and smiled at the two children. Li Xuanling froze. His eyes immediately reddened. He had spent days fleeing, endured life as a slave, and once been forced to consider death for both himself and his sister. All the grievance he had suppressed finally broke free. He set down Li Jingdian, whose face was already covered in tears, and cried out, "Father!" Li Tongya's heart tightened. He pulled the boy into one arm and spoke softly. "It is all right now. Everything is fine. We elders failed you. We allowed you to suffer." Li Tongya sighed. He gathered one jewel to each arm and stepped into the air. As they flew, he explained gently, "Jia Nixi truly is a formidable figure. He has thrown our clan into complete disarray. Your uncle's retreat was cut off, forcing him westward. We have received no news of him since." Li Xuanling remembered the 4 cold words that had appeared upon King Shisek's jade seal. Endure for the moment. He looked up at the darkening night sky and said quietly, "We still have to rely on our own strength. Father, I heard that the clan lord entered deep into the Shanyue heartland. Have you received any news?" Li Xuanling wiped his tears, still remembering what he had learned in the camp. Li Tongya paused. Then he merely reassured him, "Do not worry. Your uncle will turn danger into safety." By the time Li Tongya returned to Mount Lijing, Li Xuanfeng was still in seclusion. Li Xuanyuan had already settled the affairs of the villages and organized 200 to 300 clan soldiers to maintain order. The moment Li Tongya set the children down, Li Xuanling voluntarily returned the profound mirror to the rear courtyard. Li Jingdian was exhausted after the ordeal. She went to the eastern residence to reassure her mother, Lady Tian, then washed and rested. Li Xuanyuan released a breath of relief when he saw them. He immediately asked for news of Li Xiangping. Li Xuanling repeated everything he had heard, and both Li Tongya and Li Xuanyuan fell silent. Then Li Tongya remembered the 4 words Li Xiangping had received with the edict essence: evade death and extend life. The thought eased his heart slightly. He said in a deep voice, "We need not worry about Xiangping for the moment. The Misty Maze formation was broken. Were any of its formation flags recovered?" Li Xuanyuan hurriedly produced 3 flags. When the Great Formation collapsed, all 6 flags revealed themselves and scattered across the mountain. I recovered only 3. The remaining ones were most likely taken by the Shanyue. 5 spirit fields were damaged in this attack. We lost more than 300 caddies of spirit rice and over a dozen spirit fruits. The damaged fields have already been replanted. After careful calculation, the total loss is approximately 20 spirit stones. Li Tongya nodded. Li Xuanyuan continued anxiously. However, Jia Nixi destroyed the Misty Maze formation. Mount Lijing has now lost its protection, and the clan possesses no other major formation. What did Wan Tianqiu say? Li Tongya picked up the 3 formation flags and placed them in his storage pouch. Li Xuanyuan shook his head in disappointment. His training is too shallow. The Wan family possessed many formation inheritances, yet he learned only 2. The concealment formation and the defensive formation. Both are minor formations of the embryonic breathing level. Neither can serve as a mountain-protecting formation. Li Tongya considered the matter for several breaths. One reason Mount Lijing suffered this disaster was the weakness of its formation. Set up whatever formations you can for now, if only to prevent ordinary people from wandering onto the mountain. In several years I will gather another portion of river-born clear qi. If Xiangping has still not returned by then, we will sell it and invite someone from the Xiao family in the commandery to establish a qi refining formation for us. This difficulty appeared on Li Xuanyuan's face. That would force Granduncle to waste cultivation time condensing the clear qi again. It is no great matter. Li Tongya shook his head. None of you have reached the 5th stage of embryonic breathing and awakened spiritual perception, so you cannot gather this clear qi. Even with spiritual perception, an embryonic breathing cultivator would gather it extremely slowly. It might take 8 or 10 years, which would waste even more time. Unfortunately, this strand of heavenly and earthly spiritual qi has exceedingly strict requirements. Even such a vast bed of reeds can barely condense one portion every 5 years. Li Xuanyuan nodded. Li Tongya continued. Furthermore, once our clan reports that someone has entered qi refining, Qingqi sect will grant us higher-grade spiritual seeds and revise our annual tribute. Li Xuanyuan hesitated. Would that not require our clan to offer even more tribute? Could we conceal the breakthrough instead? There is no need. Li Tongya shook his head. At most, we would hide it for 20 or 30 years. The moment we fight an enemy or kill a demon, the truth will eventually be exposed. We would also offend Qingqi sect for no reason. Although Qingqi sect usually appears to leave the families beneath it to grow freely, we should still act carefully. The sect behaves strangely. We must always keep some means in reserve against it. Qingqi sect merely raises us like sheep and cattle. A young man's mocking voice came from outside. Li Xuanfeng strode through the doorway with heroic confidence and a smile on his face. Li Tongya swept him with spiritual perception and immediately smiled. You succeeded? Li Xuanfeng nodded. I broke through to the 5th stage of embryonic breathing and formed the Jade Capital Chakra. Spiritual perception is entirely different from ordinary senses. It is truly extraordinary. Li Xuanyuan laughed and congratulated him, unable to hide the envy in his eyes. Li Xuanfeng shook his head. His thoughts remained fixed upon Li Xiangping, so he felt little joy in his advancement. He raised the longbow in his hand and said, I will hunt several demons in the surrounding mountains. Their bodies should help replenish some of the clan's losses. Do not go too deep. Li Tongya warned him. With Li Xuanfeng's strength, killing several demons around Mount Dali would not be difficult. Li Tongya was only concerned that he might be injured. Li Xuanfeng nodded and departed. Li Tongya then turned his gaze toward Li Xuanyuan. You must not neglect your own cultivation. Enter qi refining as soon as possible, and I will be able to set my mind at ease. Yes, Li Xuanyuan nodded firmly. At that moment, a voice called from outside the courtyard. Young clan lord, a visitor has arrived in town. He claims to be from the Lu clan of Diaoyun in the east. Bring him in. Li Tongya watched the reporting soldier withdraw and thought, this is almost certainly connected to the Ji family. The Lu clan of Diaoyun and our Li clan of Lijing stand to the east and west of the Ji family. They likely want us to coordinate an attack. Before the thought had fully settled, an old man was led into the courtyard. He wore a white robe. His hair was silver, yet his face remained youthful. A jade rui rested in one hand. Smiled, cupped his hands toward the 2 men and said, Lu Cixi of the Lu clan of Diaoyun, under the governance of Qingqi sect, greets you both. Li Tongya of the Li clan of Lijing. Li Tongya returned the greeting. His spiritual perception swept across the visitor. The old man's cultivation was probably at the 5th or 6th stage of qi refining. The jade rui in his hand shone with pure, translucent radiance and was clearly extraordinary, far superior to the embryonic breathing sword at Li Tongya's waist. Please. Li Tongya and Lu Cixi entered the courtyard and sat down. Li Xuanling and the others withdrew. After accepting tea from the servants, Li Tongya asked, Senior, may I ask what brings you here? Ah, Lu Cici's gray-white brows lifted. A faint smile remained at the corners of his mouth. I came to congratulate you, young friend Tongya. Congratulate me for what? Li Tongya frowned, unable to determine the old man's purpose. The Shanyue mountain tribes entered the border and plundered many places. Dozens of families suffered disaster. and 6 were completely destroyed. Yet as I traveled across Mount Lijing, apart from several anxious mortals on the roads, I heard no mourning at all. That suggests your clan suffered little loss. Is that not worth celebrating? Lu Sisi smiled as he finished. Li Tongya's frown deepened. Senior, speak plainly. What do you want? Lu Sisi took a sip of tea and abandoned the empty courtesies. The Ji family occupies Mount Huaqian. My Lu family intends to take it back. We want the mount. Your Li family will receive proper compensation in spirit stones, treasures, and other resources. This will remove the enemy trapped between our two clans, and it will also allow the Lu family to avenge an old debt. Oh? Li Tongya responded lightly, showing little emotion. What new enmity has your family formed with the Ji clan? There is something you do not know, young friend. My Lu family once sent a qi refining cultivator to reinforce Mount Huaqian. He died there. Embarrassment appeared on Lu Sisi's face. Li Tongya asked, how many qi refining cultivators does the Ji family possess? What kind of backing do they have? Has Senior investigated the matter thoroughly? Lu Sisi nodded. The Ji family currently has 2 qi refining cultivators. Their patriarch, Ji Dengqi, is in the middle stage of qi refining, probably the 5th or 6th level. Another Ji disciple entered qi refining only within the past several years. As for their backing, rumor says a woman from the Ji family serves beside an important figure of Tangjin Gate. Li Tongya gave a soft laugh and shook his head helplessly. If Senior Lu knows this, then you also know that the Ji family cannot be touched. Lu Sisi laughed and placed down his teacup. Since I came to find you, I naturally gathered information first. He lowered his voice. One of my brothers serves as a guest elder in Tangjin Gate. 3 years ago, he told me that Tangjin Gate had recalled many of the guardians stationed along Wangyu Lake. If my judgment is correct, some major disturbance must have occurred within the sect. Oh? Li Tongya finally showed interest. What has Qingqi sect done? It has already issued an order. Lu Sisi produced a handwritten decree bearing Qingqi sect's seal. The document contained several dozen lines. Its meaning was simple. The border between Qingqi sect and Tangjin Gate would be shifted thousands of li northward. The entire eastern shore of Wangyue Lake would now belong to Qingqi sect. This order was distributed through the commandery only several days ago. When I compare the date with the movements of Tangjin Gate, then unless I am mistaken, the middle stage purple mansion cultivator of Tangjin Gate has exhausted his lifespan and passed away. Only one early stage purple mansion cultivator remains to hold the sect together. Li Tongya froze. Shock entered his expression. He immediately asked, the fall of a purple mansion cultivator is an enormous matter. Tangjin Gate would certainly conceal it with extreme care. Why does Qingqi sect already seem to know everything? The 3 sects and 7 gates stood high above the surrounding cultivation world because every one of them possessed at least one purple mansion inheritance. The 3 sects were said to possess 3 or more such inheritances each. The 7 gates possessed either 1 or 2, and every sect had purple mansion cultivators stationed within it. Now that Tangjin Gate's middle stage purple mansion cultivator had died, the sect would not necessarily be destroyed, but the contraction of its influence was unavoidable. How could people like us understand the filth and schemes of purple mansion cultivators? Lu Sisi shook his head. Then he asked directly, I will not waste more words. Will your Li family participate or not? Li Tongya closed his eyes and considered the offer. The Li clan lacked cultivation inheritances and spiritual resources. The promised compensation was enormously tempting. Destroying the Ji family would also remove a major threat hanging over the clan. Even so, Li Tongya carefully confirmed one final point. The important figure supporting the Ji family is rumored to be the young master of Tangjin Gate. What is his relationship to the purple mansion cultivator who died? He is that cultivator's grandson. That branch is probably struggling to preserve even its own authority now. No one knows how much bloodshed and upheaval the succession will create. They can no longer spare attention for a minor Ji family. Very well. Li Tongya nodded and said through clenched teeth, I have several conditions. Please speak, young friend Tongya. First, if the Ji family's cultivation methods and secret manuals fall into our hands, the Li clan will make a complete copy of every one of them. Those copies will not be counted against the compensation owed to us. Lu Sisi nodded without hesitation. Agreed. Second, I will act under the identity of a wandering cultivator from Wangyu Lake, not as a member of the Li clan of Lijing. If the enemy's strength exceeds our expectations, I will withdraw immediately, and anyone I personally kill will belong to me. All spoils on their bodies will be mine. Lu Sisi paused, then laughed bitterly. His tone carried a trace of admiration. You are remarkably cautious, young friend. If the younger generation of my Lu family possessed even 60% of your ability, I would have far fewer worries about what comes after me. Li Tongya merely smiled without speaking. Lu Sisi continued. However, the wealth stored on Mount Huaqian will be divided equally. As for the spirit springs and spirit fields, my Lu family will calculate 30% of their value and compensate your clan with spirit stones or treasures. Li Tongya took a sip of tea. I want you to swear a profound century spirit oath. Lu Cixi nodded without hesitation once more. Naturally, the two men used a secret method to swear the oath. Each felt a faint seal settle upon his profound sensory chakra. Li Tongya asked, "When do we move?" "I will return in 3 days. Then I will travel with you to Mount Huatian." Li Tongya nodded and saw Lu Cixi off. When he returned to the courtyard, he found Li Xuanyuan deep in thought. He said quietly, "There is still one jade bud pill in my storage pouch. The pill Xiangping obtained after killing that old cultivator. I will enter seclusion now and break through to the 3rd stage of qi refining. That should give me a little more confidence." Li Xuanyuan rose and cupped his hands. "Granduncle, cultivate without concern. Leave the clan to me." Li Qijing stood upon the city wall and watched the beast tide surging toward the mountain below. The aura of his cultivation was vast and oppressive. His white robes snapped in the wind. The surrounding disciples looked at him with unconcealed awe. "Is that the King Wei sword, Li Qijing? Who else could it be? Look at that aura. He must be only a single step from foundation establishment." Li Qijing understood his own condition better than anyone. He was not merely one step away. At every moment, he had to suppress the true essence within his body to prevent it from liquefying on its own. The slightest movement of intent would cause the 6 chakras formed during embryonic breathing to liquefy immediately. His entire cultivation would gather within the Qihai acupoint and condense into a foundation of the Great Tao. He would enter foundation establishment at once. "I cannot delay much longer. The sect has already sent people to urge me 3 times. Li Qijing repeated the thought silently. A handsome man in white robes standing beside him patted his shoulder and asked softly, "Junior brother, you have already reached the peak of qi refining, have you not?" Li Qijing sighed inwardly. He turned toward the man with a calm expression. "That is correct. Senior brother Qi, have you come to persuade me to advance to foundation establishment?" The man in white paused, then nodded. "That is the sect's intention. The breakthrough pills have already been prepared for you. You may enter seclusion whenever you wish." Li Qijing nodded and answered with a light smile. "The sect has truly devoted great care to me." Qijing is deeply grateful. Senior brother Qi's expression shifted. He answered with some embarrassment. "Naturally. But how certain are you of succeeding, junior brother?" Li Qijing deliberately showed difficulty. "I fear my chances are not even 80%. 80%? Senior brother Qi frowned. For any other cultivator, such a probability would have been terrifyingly high. Yet he knew how many heavenly treasures and rare medicines the sect had fed Li Qijing. After consuming so much, Li Qijing claimed to possess only an 80% chance. Suspicion rose in senior brother Qi's heart. It appears he truly cannot do without a Suiwan pill. He sighed softly, took a jade bottle from his pouch, and smiled. "I still possess one Suiwan pill. Take it and use it for now." Li Qijing nodded with a grateful expression and accepted the bottle. "Many thanks, senior brother." Senior brother Qi suppressed the pain in his heart and maintained his smile. "Once you are prepared, enter seclusion and make the breakthrough." Li Qijing nodded firmly and slowly descended the mountain. As he passed senior brother Qi, a cold voice entered his ear. "Li Qijing, your foundation establishment breakthrough may only succeed. It is not permitted to fail. You do not want to know the consequences." Li Qijing's steps slowed slightly. He looked back at the warm smile on senior brother Qi's face, laughed, shook his head, and continued down the mountain. Senior brother Qi watched his departing figure with cold eyes and muttered, "What do a few pills matter? He is a man about to die. Giving them to him changes nothing, but the ancestor's embryo origin pill must not be lost under any circumstances." Li Qijing descended the mountain and considered his next step for several breaths. A small pavilion stood near the foot of the slope. He climbed its gold-painted staircase and found a young man collapsed drunkenly against a reddish-brown square table. "Deng Qiuji," Li Qijing hauled him upright with one hand. Moonlight returning origin rapidly gathered in his palm, condensing into a basin of clear water that he poured across Deng Qiuji's face. The water struck the dazed young man and streamed down his hair. The moment it reached the floor, it evaporated into spiritual energy. The effortless precision of the spell revealed the depth of Li Qijing's cultivation. Deng Qiuji jolted awake. He looked at Li Qijing through bleary eyes, shook his head, and grinned foolishly. "Brother Jing, why are you here so early today?" Li Qijing sat down. He turned over every wine flask on the table and barely managed to collect a single cup. After taking a sip, he said in a deep voice, "Tomorrow I will break through to foundation establishment." Deng Qiuji froze. When he looked up, tears were already gathering in his eyes. "Brother Jing, have you finally accepted it?" Li Qijing nodded and smiled. "Is it not merely a matter of being eaten?" Deng Qiuji stared at him. He silently raised his cup, only to discover it was empty. he could only mutter, "You are still the optimistic one." Li Qijing laughed quietly. "We have spent years investigating the matter. I am the principal medicine, and you are the supplementary ingredient. I wonder what kind of divine pill they intend to refine from us." He drained his cup and walked out of the pavilion. Deng Qiuji remained sitting there in a daze as one final sentence drifted back through the air. "This wine is not strong enough." After leaving the pavilion, Li Qijing went directly to a cave dwelling within the mountain and gently knocked upon the stone door. Someone opened it before long. Jinger. The man was his senior brother Xiao Yuanxi. Several medicinal herbs were still held in his hand. When he saw Li Qijing, guilt crossed his face, and he called the name in a low voice. "Why does senior brother not invite me inside?" Li Qijing asked with a playful smile. Xiao Yuanxi hurriedly stepped aside and welcomed him in. He placed tea upon the stone table, then stared at Li Qijing without knowing what to say. "Senior brother has also reached the peak of qi refining. How confident are you in forming a foundation establishment?" Xiao Yuanxi shook his head. "I cannot compare with you. At present, I possess only a 30 or 40% chance. I still need several more years of accumulation." Li Qijing nodded. After exchanging a few ordinary words, he finally reached the purpose of his visit. "I came because there are several matters I wish to entrust to senior brother." "Speak, Jinger." Li Qijing took out the jade bottle. "This is the Suiyuan pill Qijuyuan gave me. Please bring it back to my family." Xiao Yuanxi nodded, then hesitated. "But I have no use for such a thing." Li Qijing shook his head and smiled confidently. Then he removed several more objects from his storage pouch and explained them one by one. "I accumulated some merit during these past years and exchanged it for an alchemical inheritance. I heard Xuanfeng is gifted with the bow, and my elder brother also practices archery, so I exchanged for this secret archery method as well. I converted the remainder into spirit stones. There are only about 100. Together with talismans I drew over the years, please bring all of them back to the clan." Xiao Yuanxi naturally understood what Li Qijing intended. His eyes glistened and grief entered his voice. "Jinger, King Wei Peak has failed you." Li Qijing paused, then shook his head with a smile. "Why must senior brother say that? My cultivation was bestowed upon me by King Wei Peak. What is wrong with returning it to the sect now? Do not allow anyone else to seize upon your words and use them against you. No matter what the sect may be, the Xiao family and King Wei Peak have done many things for both me and the Li clan. I, Li Qijing, and the Li clan of Lijing will remember that kindness." After speaking, Li Qijing rose. He performed 3 bows and 9 prostrations toward the northern prison tower, where Si Yuanbai was confined. Then he bowed solemnly to Xiao Yuanxi. Tears finally gathered in the corners of his eyes. His voice broke slightly. "Senior brother, I must trouble you to watch over my family from now on." Xiao Yuanxi rose with a grave expression. He answered solemnly, "Jinger, as long as Xiao Yuanxi, remain alive, the Li clan's inheritance will never be severed." Li Qijing wiped the corners of his eyes and embraced him with a smile. Xiao Yuanxi lowered his head slightly and asked gently, "Do you have any unfulfilled wish?" Li Qijing laughed aloud. His voice turned cold. "My wishes in this life are already fulfilled. If I must name one final desire, then I hope the Purple Mansion ancestor who intends to refine us into a pill fails his golden core breakthrough, exhausts his lifespan, and dies with both body and Tao destroyed." Li Tongya swallowed the jade bud pill. Spiritual power immediately surged throughout his body, while the energy inside his Qi-Hai acupoint rose like a tide. He broke through smoothly to the 3rd stage of Qi refining. Compared with the embryonic breathing realm, where every stage presented another gate that had to be opened, cultivation during Qi refining was almost a level road. Some great sects even divided the entire realm into only 3 phases: early, middle, and late. Qi refining itself was little more than the steady accumulation of cultivation. Every true obstacle had been concentrated into a single merciless barrier, the transformation from Qi refining into foundation establishment. Li Tongya spent 1 night completing the breakthrough and another 2 days stabilizing his cultivation. After calculating the time, he muttered, "I have reached the 3rd stage of Qi refining. Jinger is probably already at the peak of Qi refining. I wonder how certain he is of reaching foundation establishment. They say the southern border is dangerous. I do not even know whether he has been injured." Anxiety rose within him. He has been gone for so many years, yet not a single letter has ever reached the family. Li Tongya forced down his unease and left the cave dwelling on Mount Mixi. He found Li Xuanyuan and asked quietly, "Did the Wu Weaver worms produce silk this year?" "Granduncle, they spun silk 3 times, producing 6 strands in total." Li Xuanyuan had not slept all night. He had been hurriedly processing the demons Li Xuanfeng had brought back from his hunt, and dust still clung to his clothing. "Have someone draw out the strands and weave 1 chi of cloth." Li Tongya stroked his chin. As Li Xuanyuan nodded, he thought, "Only this spirit cloth can block spiritual perception. It should conceal me well enough that no one will clearly remember my appearance. Unfortunately, we possess too little. A full cloak would have been ideal. He removed the wooden slip Li Qijing had left upon the shelf. Li Tongya had read it so many times that the oxhide cords binding it were covered in wear. Yet every reading allowed him to understand another fragment of its subtlety. He had studied the Waning Moon Sword Lake for more than 10 years, and already knew every word by heart. However, the technique consumed too much spiritual power, and he had never used it during actual combat. Talent in the sword truly cannot be compared. Li Tongya gave a bitter laugh. The younger members of the Li clan had all read the Profound Water Sword Art and the Waning Moon Sword Lake written by Li Qijing. Apart from his eldest son Li Xuanling, who possessed some talent, neither Li Xuanfeng nor Li Xuanyuan had understood anything from them. After Li Tongya read for a while longer, Li Xuanyuan returned with the spirit cloth. Li Tongya accepted the thin, dark gray fabric and swept it repeatedly with spiritual perception. His senses truly could not pass through it. He nodded, stored the cloth away, and rose to leave the cave dwelling. He removed several jade bottles of healing pills from his storage pouch and secured them on his person. Then he took off the storage pouch itself and handed it to Li Xuanyuan. In the distance, Lu Sisi had already ridden the wind down to the foot of the mountain. Li Tongya leaped into the air and landed silently beside him. "Senior Lu." Lu Sisi nodded. Neither man wasted words. They rode the wind eastward together. Li Tongya followed at an unhurried distance behind him and observed the dense, steady clear qi surrounding Lu Sisi. The old man's true essence was far purer than that of the Shanyue qi refining cultivators. The Lu family cultivates an orthodox method. They most likely absorb lesser azure spirit qi. Many years earlier, when Li Tongya and Wan Yuankai delivered tribute together, Wan Yuankai had mentioned that the Lu family's qi refining cultivators used lesser azure spirit qi. Now Li Tongya had finally seen it for himself. The two traveled upon the wind for some time. Mount Huaqian soon appeared in the distance. Lu Sisi suddenly rose higher. His left hand struck his storage pouch, and a talisman appeared between his fingers. "Go!" He flicked his wrist. The talisman shot into the sky and exploded into an enormous crimson flower. One figure after another immediately rushed through the forest below. The defenders of Mount Huaqian reacted quickly. A translucent barrier rose around the mountain. Two figures stepped into the air from within. The man in front carried a long saber and wore a grave expression. It was Ji Dengxi. "You are actually on Mount Huatian?" A strange look crossed Lu Sisi's face. The jade rui in his hand had already shot forward. He laughed. "How convenient. We will not need to ambush you." "Brother An, come out." The moment Lu Sisi finished speaking, another man flew from the forest. Li Tongya glanced sideways. The newcomer had rough stubble across his face and a gleaming bald head, giving him an imposing appearance. True essence flowed around him as well. He was a middle-stage qi-refining cultivator. "Lu Sisi." Ji Dengxi narrowed his eyes coldly. He studied the group for several breaths and knocked the jade rui aside with one sweep of his saber. Then he abruptly asked, "What happened to Tangjin Gate?" Li Tongya saw the ugliness in Ji Dengxi's expression. For a moment, he seemed to see the four cold words that had appeared when the Shanyue suddenly invaded. Endure for the moment. Understanding struck him. Just as the passage of the Shanyue was arranged between Qingqi sect and the Shanyue leadership, the abandonment of the families now under attack must also be part of an agreement between Qingqi sect and Tangjin Gate. Ji Dengxi received no warning at all.